Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing, will my ex think of me at Christmas? I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details, www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing, will my ex think of me at Christmas? So as Christmas time approaches, millions and millions of people around the world will be moving into one of their favourite times of the year. But if you are a dumpee, if you are somebody who has recently been dumped, or maybe your breakup was even longer ago, Christmas time can be a very challenging period. The holiday season isn't always smiles and happiness for those people who have been broken up with. In today's podcast, I'm going to be answering one of the most important questions that dumpees have at this time of year, which is, will my ex think of me at Christmas? I'm going to be breaking this down into 3 points for you to consider. So let's get straight into this. And point number 1 is, how long ago was your breakup? So one of the first things we need to consider when we answer the question, will my ex think of me at Christmas, is considering how long ago your breakup was. So for instance, if your breakup was 6 months ago, there is a very strong possibility that your ex will think of you at Christmas. Your breakup was so recent that when we move into the holiday season, a natural time for people to think of loved ones past and present, they will very much likely think of you. They'll be wondering, what are you doing? What type of Christmas are you going to have? Maybe you had even discussed the Christmas you were planning to have together. This is where you are very likely to be in your ex's mind. But what if your breakup was longer ago? What if your breakup was 2, 3, 4 years ago? What if your breakup was what some people may say a lifetime ago? Well, this doesn't mean that your ex won't think about you. This doesn't mean necessarily you won't cross their mind. But there is certainly a correlation that the longer ago your breakup was, the less likely you will to cross your dumper's mind. Now, I'm not talking weeks or months. What I'm talking about here is years. If your breakup was 4 years ago, there is a lot less chance of your ex-dumper thinking of you than if your breakup was in November or maybe even back in January. If it's within the year, there is absolutely a very strong possibility your ex will be thinking of you. If it's more than a year, it's not impossible. If it was 18 months ago, it's certainly something which could happen. But once we get into many, many years ago, although I would never say it's impossible for you to cross their mind, we have to understand and respect that it is less likely that your ex will be thinking of you at Christmas. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about, will my ex think of me at Christmas? And point number 2 is, did you used to spend Christmas together? Now, this is something very, very important. Maybe your relationship was 20 years long, but you never spent Christmas together. For whatever reason, it wasn't something that happened, maybe due to work commitments. Possibly you were together for just over a year and you spent last Christmas together and it was a wonderful time. This makes a big difference, because if you spent Christmas time together, if you were together during the holiday season, there is a much stronger possibility that your ex-dumper will be thinking of you this Christmas. And this is because it's very natural to think back to prior holiday seasons, prior Christmases, when we get to the day itself. So you get to Christmas Day, you naturally think, what was I doing last Christmas Day? Well, if you as a dumpee was with your ex last Christmas Day, then this Christmas Day you are almost certainly going to be on their mind. So if you were together for many, many years, but you never spent Christmas together, that unfortunately will go against you, because they don't have that natural thought process of last Christmas I was with this person. 2, 3, 4 Christmases ago, I was with this person. So even though the length of time you are together can increase the chance in general of your ex thinking about you, if you were together for a long, long time, but you never spent Christmas together, when we think of a specific question, such as, will my ex think of me at Christmas? They're not going to think of you as much or as likely if you never spent Christmas together. So it's more about the Christmases you spent within each other's company than the Christmases that you may have been together but actually didn't spend with one another. Now, this is very important as well when we consider long-distance relationships, because unfortunately, you are not likely to have spent Christmas together. Now, if, of course, you had a video call, if you spent nearly all day together speaking on the phone, on video or whatnot, then yes, you are likely to be thought of in that way. But nothing is more powerful than if you are together in person. So when you think about your dumper, when you wonder if they will think of you, just try to think back. How many Christmases did you spend together? Even if you were together only 13 months, okay, a relationship which is nowhere near as long as 20 years, if that 13 months did include last Christmas, and if somebody's in a relationship for decades and could never spend Christmas together, you in the shorter relationship have a better chance of being in your ex's mind at this very important time of year for millions and millions of people around the world. So if you're trying to get your head around this, if you want support, whether or not you want to get your ex back, even if you think, well, look, I don't want to reconnect with my ex, but I just need help and support through this challenging time of year, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one. I become your coach and your teammate. I can support you in many different ways, whether it's just through breakup recovery without even the aim of trying to get your ex back, or perhaps you do want to increase that chance of one day reconnecting. Maybe you want to try to get a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend, or perhaps you just want to focus on general life coaching. I can help you with all of this and more. Some of you might be listening who are actually still in relationships. You're not actually broken up. You're not looking for anybody new, but your relationship is struggling. I can help you with couples support as well. So if you want to speak to me one-on-one, if you want me to be your coach and your teammate, check out my website, www.dateme.tips, and you will find information on my audio coaching and what you need to do for me and you to speak soon. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about will my ex think of me at Christmas? And point number 3 is, are they single? So we have to consider a very delicate question right now, and that is whether or not your ex is single. Now, as already described, if you spent prior Christmases with your ex, if you were together a longer period of time, and especially spent prior Christmases together, there is every chance your ex, the dumper, will think of you. This is irrespective of their personal current circumstances. However, we can't avoid the fact that if your ex is no longer single, if they're dating somebody new, if they're serious with somebody else, if they're living with them, if they are married to somebody new, then they are less likely to spend time thinking of you and more likely to be living in the moment with this new person. Now, this doesn't mean you can't get your ex back, but I'm not going to give you false hope. If your ex, the dumper, is living with somebody else, if your ex, the dumper, is married to somebody else, if your ex, the dumper, is serious with somebody else, your chances of getting your ex back, certainly in the short to medium term, are limited. I will never say never. I've heard of some crazy situations where years down the line, reconnections can take place, even if people have dated or even married different people in between. But we're looking at the statistics, we're looking at the odds, we're looking at the chances. And when we consider whether or not your ex will think of you at Christmas, if they are in a happy current relationship, they will have less time to think of the past and more time to think of the present. Now, that is something that you need to be doing right now. Now, even if you aren't in a new relationship, you can keep yourself busy. I strongly suggest, as a dumpee, you make sure that you find time to spend with other people on Christmas Day and around the holiday season. Don't just lock yourself in your room and be alone. You might feel like you don't want to see anybody, but you have the time, so make the time to spend time with other people. Being in other people's presence is very, very important, and it can really lift your mood. So text your friends, text your family, make plans, and if you can't see anybody, make sure you're texting, having phone calls, don't feel alone. Treat yourself, watch your favourite movie, but make sure it is a positive one. Listen to your favourite songs, but make sure they are not upsetting and negative and about relationships. Lift your mood, don't lower it, and you will stand every opportunity of living through this Christmas in a way that you feel really, really happy. Lots of people think, look, this is impossible, this Christmas is going to be terrible. That is not true. Whether or not you get your ex back, you stand every chance of having a happy Christmas if you surround yourself with loved ones, with happy thoughts, with happy feelings. Treat yourself, look after yourself, care for yourself. So, whether or not your ex is single, in a relationship, whatever their situation, they may think of you this Christmas. That is the truth. You're in a relationship with them. Romantic relationships are special. They are important. They are rare. Think of how many people there are in the world. 8 billion people. Think how many people your ex had relationships with. Okay? Whether it's 10 people, 2 people, 1 person, it's very, very small. You are a very special person in their life. They're a very special person in your life. You're not together right now. It doesn't mean that we're not going to think of you. If they're with somebody else at the moment, it doesn't mean it's going to last forever. But right now, they're probably going to focus on them. If you're single and you're thinking of your ex, keep yourself busy. You will get through this. You will feel happiness again. With or without your ex, you will have a positive future. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.